Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 9 of the second season of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. Today's conversation is about navigating the emotional and mental journey of infertility. It's a big topic, and much like menopause, which I had a conversation about in episode 6, it's one that's very important to talk about. My guest is Ashley Holmes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before we jump in. Ashley supports women struggling with infertility by creating a fertile foundation within. Women are empowered through one-on-one coaching to nourish their mind, body, and spirit, navigating the mental and emotional roller coaster ride by embodying holistic practices to ease stress and heal naturally. Ashley is a best-selling author and aims to bring light and awareness to infertility so that women don't suffer silently. Welcome to the podcast, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to have this conversation and to bring some light to it.
Yeah, I think it's super important. So I'm going to share very openly here. I had my daughter when I was 22. I'm now 43. So I think that was at a time in my life, and I think it's a time in most women's lives where you can literally get pregnant by sharing a chair with a man. Obviously, we did a little bit more than sharing a chair, but it's generally when the younger you are, the easier it is to get pregnant. So when I met my now husband, I don't think I was particularly fazed about having any more children. I don't think he doesn't have children. We threw caution to the wind for a while. Nothing happened. So we just kind of went, okay, that's how it's going to be. And off we go. We've got a bunch of dogs and life's gone in a different direction. But in preparing for today, I was reflecting on it and I thought, I don't think I would feel that way if I hadn't have already had a child. I'm coming at it from a space of it being, I've got a kid. I don't feel the need to have another one. I don't know how I'd feel if I hadn't have had Rosie, my daughter. So my first question for you, and I think this is quite a heavy question to ask, is how do you help clients navigate and get to a level of acceptance when there is no baby at the end of a fertility journey?
I think that it's really a journey of going inward and finding that peace for yourself. And it's not going to be a one and done thing. And I think that's the important thing to know about healing is that there will be times and there will be moments where this is going to surface and you might have tears in your eyes and, it might affect you for a long time. But I think that I think that if you can know that you put everything you possibly could into it, and that if that is what your karma is for this lifetime, there are still plenty of ways that you can give love and to love children and to spread your love and to give your love in that way, that to find just what works for you, what resonates with you, whether you work with children or, whether you just, you're a dog mom or whatever it is for you. There are many ways to sort of fill up your cup if you can't have that child naturally or the way that you desire to have it.
Yeah, and I think it must be very hard because I look at it and I think, we had conversations about it, and I saw the gynae who was like, "Do you want to do anything about this?" So I said, "Well, no, not really," because at 43 you're starting to push it, being quite difficult and a very expensive exercise as well. And I do sometimes have moments where I just think, oh, we're going to get to, retirement age, all things being equal, we get to retirement age, and my daughter's around. And I think that's great. I feel for my partner's parents a little bit in not having any grandchildren. I think that's quite a tough one. Again, like you said, it is an interesting take on it. Maybe that's also their karma. But what are the steps you would take someone through to really try and reach that level of acceptance? Because for some people, I don't know that they buy the karma salve, I guess, for it might not be quite enough. And I found in my own coaching practice, one of the biggest ways you create unhappiness in life is literally kicking against what is and fighting
Mhm,
reality. So what are some
mhm.
ways you would work with your clients to actually help them get to that level of acceptance?
Well, you sort of nailed the needle on the head there with accepting what is. We have expectations, we have attachments to what we thought things would look like, be like, should be, and that's really what creates our internal suffering that we experience in the external world. So it really is a healing of the mind, body, and spirit together. How are you feeling whole and complete as you are, even if there isn't a child here present that you birthed into this world? And it's really just that self-love, that self-care, that self-compassion for yourself, because it's really important to not beat yourself up about it, not think that there's something wrong with you, not think that you were broken and that's why it didn't happen. There's a lot of things that can go on within your mind, and yet you are the only one that can truly tap into your subconscious mind. So it's really one to one in working with the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts that are coming up for you. And probably lots of those are looping and aren't serving you in in the trajectory that you want your life to go. So just becoming aware and cognizant of them, and through that awareness you can help to shift. And really, in yoga they're called samskaras, which are like these mental grooves that are within your brain. And so by healing and working with them, you can lessen that groove, and it's not so painful and it doesn't come as frequently, and you can just begin to create new neural pathways in the brain that are pointing you in a different direction.
Yeah, I think that's really important. There's quite a few things in there that I think are really great. Is first of all is having the awareness of the thoughts that you're having, because we have this lovely model of circumstances create thoughts, thoughts create emotions, and emotions create behaviors or actions. So you've kind of got to work backwards to get to the source of the problem, which is the thoughts. That's where our trouble starts, isn't it? And it's where the healing begins as well. And I'm glad you've brought that up. And it's digging into what are the looping dialogues that are happening for you, and being brave enough to sit with the difficult feelings. I think that's the
Yes,
hard work. And that's the hard work I find coaching people. I tend to coach women who are going through life transitions, career transitions, and it is sitting in that messy middle, sitting in the space of the anger and the fear and the disappointment and the sadness, and just being courageous enough to sit there and process through it.
definitely. We are not taught to sit with discomfort. And for a lot of us, we have been taught to suppress those emotions within us because they're not seen as valid, or you don't feel like you can freely express them. Obviously, you're not allowed to hurt people with your anger, but you are allowed to feel anger. And anger is one of the broad spectrums of emotions. And that is often something that surfaces a lot with the women that I work with. It's the anger, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's these emotions that we are uncomfortable navigating because we have been led to believe that it's not okay to feel, have, express these emotions, yet we all have them. And so it's really just giving us ourselves permission to move through them, and we can do that in so many ways. And yoga is a beautiful way to actually understand the organs and where we house our emotions and how we house our emotions, and give ourselves the space and grace to move through them and to actually let things go. Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I let it go. It's another thing to actually physically embody that and process that and do it.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's one thing to say you've let go of it. It's another thing to put it down and walk away and know that you have actually let go of it. That's the journey. I think it's a life's work going through this inner work. It's been a journey I've been on for about 8 years now of this real self-work journey. And it gets easier. I think the longer you've been doing it, you understand, there's my old friend, anxiety arriving, and it becomes quicker to process through it. They don't ever go away, very frustratingly, but that's part of being human. We have to learn to navigate them. And like you've said, learning to process anger without spewing it onto somebody else. So we've talked about yoga as a great tool for helping to work through emotions. What are a couple of other tools you help and advise women to use if they're processing through anger? Because I can imagine if you're at a stage where you've spent a lot of money, not just, it's not about the money, but you've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, there's been a lot of stress happening on a fertility journey, and you've got nothing to show for it. I think I'd be absolutely seething with rage, to be quite honest. How do you help people process through that so they can kind of go through a grieving process?
It's very important to feel your anger, to feel the grief, and to give yourself the time and space to do that, because we often just try to rush through or think I'll deal with this later, or I don't want to feel this or deal with this right now, and we're just shoving it under the rug, and yet it's still there, and it will surface. You will one time, at some point in time, feel like a volcano about to erupt. And that's how I felt on my yoga mat. Was I didn't, and I don't perceive myself as an angry person, and yet I was like, what is bubbling and surfacing beneath me that had been pushed down for so long? And so I think that all of us really need to come to understand that we need to be looking internally and not always externally for answers for everything, and to become aware of what is going on within us. Is our
Yeah,
stomach in knots day in and day out because this is making us physically and emotionally sick
yeah.
because we're at the end of our rope? And
Mm.
that's not a place I want anybody to be.
No, and I think that's just so important, is sitting with it. I think half the battle with difficult feelings is acknowledging them, and like we've said, just learning to sit with them, even if you sit for 30 seconds with it, because it's hard. I think like you've shared, we're not taught to do it, and women especially are not taught to do it. You're told, don't make a fuss, don't kick things, don't it's fine for little boys to be angry, and even for men to be angry. It seems to be that it's more acceptable, but for women to get angry, it's a problem. And we, like you said, we don't have the tools to be able to deal with this volcano of emotions that comes up. So it's great that you're doing that work with folks. My second question, on a slightly lighter note, is for folks who are on a journey of trying to conceive. How do you help them? So I know from my experience, I'm a heart math practitioner. Stress is incredibly bad for your body. It's bad for your heart. It kicks out loads of hormones. And I imagine for when you're trying to conceive, having a bunch of cortisol and adrenaline running around is really, really counterproductive, but it is a stressful process. So how do you help folks manage that stress so they can increase their chances of being able to have a baby?
Really, that is the biggest piece and part of it, is that it is stressful. It is said to be as stressful as, say, cancer, yet it's not given the same acknowledgement or recognition as something that is weighing on you so heavily and is so stressful. And it is an ongoing stress, right? It's a cumulative stress. Okay, well, it's not this month, it'll be next month. It wasn't this year, it'll be next year. We'll have that maybe at Christmas next year. It is really just this thinking in the future, not being present, and really a journey to come back home to yourself. So the stress, we use yoga, we use breath work and meditations and chakra balancing and Reiki and I use the sister science to yoga, which is Ayurveda, to nourish yourself optimally because often when we are so stressed and we're full of cortisol and adrenaline, we're not reaching for the healthiest things either, because we are just trying to make it through. And Ayurveda is the science of life and healing the mind and body together naturally. And when you understand your Ayurvedic inborn constitution, it just allows you to flow through life with more ease and realize what is putting you out of balance and what can help to bring you back into balance. And that was a big lesson for me and something that I needed to learn because my Ayurvedic constitution is a Pitta, so I'm primarily composed of fire and water. And yet I was the one teaching hot yoga classes, one after the other, and just adding more fuel to my fire and realizing that spicy food and those things put me out of balance and to just create more harmony within. And then everything functions more optimally, and you're actually getting the nutrients that you need from the food that you're eating, and therefore everything is functioning that much more optimally for you. And I think that what is healthy for someone else, what is working for someone else, may not necessarily be serving you.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful, isn't it? And I just want to speak to what you talked about with when we're stressed, we don't make good decisions. And I'm glad you brought that up. We don't make good decisions in our lives and our interpersonal relationships. We also don't make good decisions about what we want to eat, because I think often we're driven by the adrenaline and the cortisol, which will, I imagine, push you to snacking on things that taste good because you're feeling depleted, so you want an instant kind of gratification. And of course, none of that helps to feed your body and prep it for anybody sharing it with you for a while either. So could you talk a little bit about the Ayurvedic types that you've just touched on here?
So there is Vata, which is composed primarily of air and space. And for a lot of people, these are the people that may be eating salads and lots of fruits and lots of vegetables, yet this is raw, cold food that is really actually putting your body further out of balance because it's taking so much digestive fire to actually assimilate it and get it into your body. And so I think that is really a big misconception that the health world has. It's, if you're doing this and you're being healthy and you're nourishing yourself, and yet for Vata people, that is not optimal for them at all. They want to be eating warm, nourishing foods that are easy for them to digest and take into their system. So that is a highlight for the Vata type. I spoke about myself of the Pitta type, and then there's the Kapha type, which is earth and water. And so these are the people and the type that maybe shouldn't be having such heavily dense foods. Those are the types of people that really can use more movement. They can use lighter foods. They're very grounded people, but they sometimes need a little bit of a kickstart to get going. And, it's just understanding yourself, your body, working in rhythm with the seasons and with what is available to you wherever you are in the world. You're in the UK, I'm in Canada, but just finding what is available to you and at your local farmers market, and really just being conscious and aware of what we're putting in our body and on our bodies, and realizing that there are a lot of toxins within our environments.
And how does one find out your type? You've just shared there are three. How do you know which is you?
There's you can do an Ayurvedic quiz to find out, and I go through a very thorough one with my clients where I'm asking for childhood pictures, where I'm looking for things to see what is the constant from then to now, right? Because we change a lot through the years, but there are distinguishing things and features that are you, and those don't change no matter through time and space. So really just a deep dive. And also, once clients work with me, we dive into, it's not just your body constitution, you also have a mind constitution. And for me, I may be Peta in my body, but I'm Vata in my mind, which means I'm prone to overthinking, which a lot of us are. And so it's very, what's the word I'm seeking? I need to be even more aware and even more present when I find myself in those loops, in those spirals, and catch myself before I continue down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, brilliant. It's very fascinating. I find this, it's just so interesting, the different systems. And I think Ayurveda is so cool because it's holistic. It looks at every part of you. And like you've said, not just what you're eating, what you're putting on your body, your thoughts, what action you're taking, and how the whole thing fits together. Could you share, to close us off, some advice you have for women who are in the midst of a fertility journey who are listening to this episode today?
I would really love to share that you're not alone, because everyone who's experiencing it often is the only one in their inner circle that's going through it, therefore it can feel very lonely and isolating. So to find support and to seek support to help you to navigate this with more ease and peace and grace, because it is possible for you. And I think that earlier on that you can do that and to set yourself up for success no matter what happens, because even if there isn't a baby when people finish working with me yet, they have drastically improved their health and well-being no matter what. And from the time I meet them till the time our journey ends, and it doesn't end,
Mm.
I'm, forever friends, and am always available to offer a Reiki session when, there's a turbulent time or those types of things. I really think it's important to know that someone has your back and truly to just navigate the waters that you're going through, because we will always have obstacles and there will always be things that we're faced with and things that we have to overcome, and to really fill your toolbox with what resonates with you. This may be a different line of thinking or a different um, perspective from the medical world, and I can just attest to I've done it both ways. I
Mm.
have twins, I have used a fertility clinic, and
Mhm.
I also conceive naturally by what I am offering to people that choose to work with me. And I know which way that I would choose, because I didn't think it was possible for me to conceive without a clinic, and it absolutely was. So it really goes to show you the limiting beliefs that we can hold and that we also have the power to change them.
Yeah, I think that's such powerful advice. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for sharing your wisdom today, Ashley. It's been, that's, like I said, this is a tough topic for people, and it requires a lot of inner work to navigate the outer journey of going through it, like you've said, regardless of the outcome. You're sharing access to a chapter of your book with the listeners. Just talk a little bit about that. I'm going to pop the link in the show notes, but just share what they're going to get in there.
So the chapter that I wrote for Nourished is called Fertile in Mind, Body, and Spirit, and it really dives into my journey and my personal experience, and really, truly how this helped and worked for me, and what you can get a glimpse of what this could look like for you. Because oftentimes we are feeling very defeated in our position, and it really is just to inspire and give you hope.
Amazing. I'll pop the link in the show notes. And then where can people connect with you online?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. Just look for Ashley Holmes and the beautiful baby coming out of the lotus flower. You will see my logo everywhere I go, because it really is, and it stems from, the saying, no mud, no lotus. So if you are in the
Mhm.
thick of it right now, you will not be there forever, I promise you.
Amazing. And just share your website address, please, Ashley.
It is Holistic Fertility Coach Inc. / site/Canva. So it is a Canva site, and it has all my details, all my articles for Brains Magazine, and anything else that, if this is new to you, if you haven't heard of Ayurveda, you can go in, you can read and begin to understand a little bit more and dive a little bit deeper.
Brilliant. I'll pop that link in there as well. Thank you very much for joining me today. This has been a really interesting conversation.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Thanks for being with us today, folks. I will see you same time next week. Bye for now.